Good evening, everybody. Today is Monday, December 16th, and this is a regular Moscow City Council meeting. Brandy?
Welcome. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Brandy. First item in order is our consent agenda.
I'd move to approve the consent agenda as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
We have a motion by Jim and a second by Gina to approve the consent agenda as is. I'll start the roll with Ann.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item number 2, staff recognition report. Gary, do you have anything for us tonight, sir?
No report this evening, Your Honor.
Okay, mayor's appointments. I have a bunch I'm going to talk about this evening. We have 3 new appointments. Fair and Affordable Housing, Arthur Garrow, his expiration would be 12/31 of 2021. Tree Commission, Nellis Efert, expiration 12/31, 2021. Stuart Scott, Farmers Market Commission, as a crass vendor, expiration 12/31 of 2022. And I would entertain a motion from council on these 3 appointees.
I move approval of the appointees.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion by Art and a second by Gina to approve these 3 as slated. I'll start to roll with Catherine.
Aye.
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 Okay. Is anybody here with us? I do not see Art, I do not see Stuart, and I do not see Alice. Okay, so we'll move on. And I also have 23 reappointments that I'm going to read through the list here. Board of Adjustment, I have 3. Mark Munson, Marshall Comstock, Joe Bazzoli, and these are expirations, they're all 12/31 of 2024. Fair and Affordable Housing Commission, Bruce Pittman, expiration 12/31 of 2022. Farmers Market Commission, Renee Love, a specialty food vendor, expiration 12/31 of 2022. Historic Preservation, Nels Reese, expiration 12/31 of 2022. Human Rights Commission, I have 3 that all expire on 12/31 of 2022. Jana Argeson Singer, Stephen Simmons, and Daphne Usel. And Daphne is a high school non-voting seat, and they all expire on 12/31 of 2022, as I said. Moscow Arts Commission, I have 2 candidates, reappointments here. Term expiration 12/31 of 2023, Catherine Clancy and Diane Walker. Moscow's Pathway Commissions, I have 2, and they are expiration is 12/31 of 2022, Margaret Dibble and Becky Chastain. Moscow Urban Renewal Agency, Steve Drown, who is a member at large, expiration at 12/31 of 2024. Parks and Rec Commission, I've got 3, and these are expiration terms at 12/31 of 2022, and that would be Nancy Tribble, Mark Hingling, and Susan Peterson. Sustainable Environmental Commission, I have 3 reappointees. Termination expires 12/31 of 2022. I've got Tina Hiddling, Fred Pollard, and Steve McGeehan. Transportation Commission, I have 2. Term expiration at 12/31 of 2024, and that'd be Michael Kite and Mike McGann. And on the Tree Commission, 1 person, which would expire 12/31 of 2022, Mary Jo Hamilton. So I would entertain a motion from council on those 23 appointments.
I move we accept the 23 appointments to the commissions.
I'll second that.
Okay, we've got a motion by Brandy, or Catherine, and a second by Brandy, to approve these slated reappointments, all 23, and we'll start to roll with Ann.
Aye.
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 Okay. We will move on to item number 4, Public comment and mayor's response period, we allow 15 minutes for each council meeting for this, as long as it is something that is not on this evening's agenda or in front of planning and zoning and/or the Board of Adjustment. Please come up, state your name, and tell us your concerns or what you'd like to voice.
Not concerns.
Hello, Victoria.
Victoria Seaver, 121 North Lily, Moscow. So I'm going to jump the gun, take a minute. Next meeting, we'll be welcoming 2 new council members, and you all will be having parting words for our 2 members leaving. So I wanted to thank Catherine Bonzo and Jim Bolin tonight. I want to get my word in there. Thank you. You've given us years of dedication and elbow grease and leadership. It takes a lot to do council. It takes a lot to do it well, and you've done well. So you still got a couple weeks to go. Catherine's going to be at Sustainable Environment tomorrow for probably 2 or 3 hours, our usual. So I know you'll still be out there. You'll be working on the issues. You'll be doing the aquifer, you'll be doing plastics, you'll be doing mobility, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So carry on through your term. We'll see you out there with us, and thank you for your work.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Victoria.
Others would like to come forward? Thank you for your comments, Victoria. So we will move on now to item number 5, which is the Citizens Commission Report, Historic Preservation. We have Michael Ray and we have Wendy McClure with us this evening. Hi, Mike, how are you?
Doing well, Your Honor. Thank you, council members. So I'm happy to be here today as the staff liaison to Historic Preservation Commission. They've, as usual, accomplished a lot within the last year. Wendy's going to tell you about. But I just wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about Wendy's service to Historic Preservation as well as Planning and Zoning Commission. So Wendy first joined Historic Preservation in February of '09, got elected vice chair in 2013, and then chair in 2014, and she's been chair ever since, which is over 10 years of service to Historic Preservation, as well as Planning and Zoning Commission. So she first joined in 2013, was elected vice chair in 2014, and then full chair in 2016, and where she still resides as chair. And so I just think it points to Wendy's expertise and dedication on those commissions as being elected, chair consecutive years, and just really happy to have her on in that position, and I'll turn it over to her. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, Wendy.
Thank you, Michael. And I also, good evening, Mayor Lambert and fellow council members. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a brief summary of what we've been up to this year in the Historic Preservation Commission, and hopefully I get this thing right. Yep. Okay. So we have some dedicated members, Jack Porter being the longest standing member of the commission, I think right from the beginning. I actually served a couple years back in the early 90s when it was first formed, but he's stuck with it all these years. And Nels Reese has been on quite a few years, probably 2007 or 8, I believe. And I had a succession plan for leadership, and it was going to be Sandra Kelly. And that one didn't work out too well, because I think Sandra is moving on to join you up on the bench there. So we have to start over again on that one. But I also want to thank Jim Bolin for his service as city council liaison. And I don't know who our liaison will be next year, but we thank Jim for being with us this year. And Mike Ray for, just being the backbone of keeping us on track and really just supplying. He's a man of so many talents, I can't name them all, from graphic to organizational, et cetera. So our biggest challenge really resides on this list. We have 9 seats. We only have right now 6 people. Chris Sokol's term expires, and she's decided not to renew. And Sandra Kelly's going on to council, so we will be down to 4. So one of our biggest challenges has just been to recruit. I recruited Jared Norman last year, and he's on it. But anyway, so I'm putting the word out. it's a great way to get your feet wet, understanding how the city works a little bit, and I'm hoping that there will be people out there who are interested in preserving our heritage here in Moscow, which is quite special with 2 national districts. So that's our big challenge for the year, is to try to fill some of those vacancies. And so right now, we're just trying to keep our tasks in line, or aspirations, I should say, and goals in line with our human power to carry them through. So anyway, that's our current membership. One of our ongoing projects every year, and I think Mike has copies for you here, is our 2019 Preservation Moscow newsletter. This year we decided to reduce it a little bit from an 8-page newsletter to a 4-page, so that we could transfer some funds towards other things that I'll talk about in a minute. But Barb Coiner is our contractor on this. She does a wonderful job working with the commission to pursue ideas that we suggest. This year, the theme is Pathways to Paradise. How do people come to Moscow historically and today, and what routes did they take, and why did they come here, whether it was mining or railroads or farmers coming up on the Nez Perce Trail. And so she writes a human interest, or historical interest, and of historic interest. And then we also include our Orchid Awards, which I'll move on to talk about here. So some of the funding that we saved from not having 4 additional pages of Preservation Moscow, we've directed towards really making more of an event out of the Orchids Awards, our annual celebration of good things that people are doing in Moscow for historic properties. And this year we had an interesting variety of them. You may have noticed a transformation and restoration of what was the old Peking into an extension of the Breakfast Club, and cleaning up that facade and the brickwork, and then inside as well, kind of bringing out some of the historic materials and exposing them, the brick walls, etc. That award went to Kevin and Lori Clary, the owners of the Breakfast Club. The Moscow Volunteer Fire Department did a astoundingly good job of restoring the 1953 facade that was sort of crumbling, that matches the one next to it that was built in 1927. I think I have the right, 1954, excuse me. Anyway, I was sitting across the street at Myelina's one night, and I saw all these guys working on the building, and I thought, why are they taking all the brick off the building? And then they did a wonderful job of restoring it and giving it new life, and it's very well executed. And Cynthia King, who is a private homeowner who purchased a very old home in Fort Russell, 1889. It had lost some of its integrity through various additions, and so she restored the front porch and some of the other main elements that give it its 1889 Queen Anne style design. Brett and Nikki Woodland, who've been active all over town, have done a lot of work on the Monarch as tenants of the Monarch, and they've brought out its mid-century modern character, and I hope you all agree it really improves the corner of Jackson and Main immensely. Nathan Wilson and Aaron Wrench have worked on the outside of the New Art Theater. It is, I think, our only example of Art Deco era commercial architecture on Main Street for sure, and they replaced the marquee in the spirit of that era, and other work. And then Davis and Manisha Wilson, we usually look at projects that the public can enjoy from the street, so our emphasis is there. In their case, they have repaired and sort of done a relatively careful addition to the house, but on the inside, which you can't see but is just a wonderful achievement, they've the building had the historic house had been subdivided into a bunch of apartments and then kind of unsubdivided but not restored, and they've really done a lot of work to bring back that inside. So that's really a great achievement as well. So To make this more of a celebration, we award these projects and their owners and their architects or contractors, but we also have a local vendor serve food and wine, spirits, and we have a speaker. This year it was Stephanie Clarkson, and she was one of my former students, so I'm getting old enough to have a keynote speaker. Anyway, she talked about, she has a passion for mid-century modern architecture, so it was kind of, she did a great job, and, it's about a 20-minute talk, it's just right, and it gets people interested in what's happening in the community in terms of our 2 historic districts and other architecture. You may have noticed, I hope, it was covered in snow this morning, but we've been working on an interpretive signage project for several years. The first one was installed in front of the 1912 Center, I think in early, maybe in last winter. And then more recently, the sign in front of, and there it is. It's up in the planter off of 3rd, so it doesn't have an elegant stand. It's just there and for people as they go up those steps off of 3rd. And that was our sort of first run sign, and it was vetted heavily. And then the one you may have noticed in front of City Hall that's been there for about a month, I think, or 2 months. One thing that's unique about this sign is we found this rare strip of construction photos for the building, and they're really quite wonderful. They run down the middle. And I have to say that I went down to photograph this sign, and I had to wait, because these people were reading every word, and it was great. And I left for a while, I came back, and then I talked to them, and they said, well, we're from Spokane. What's it like living in Moscow? We wanted to explore Moscow, and we liked the history here. And see if this is a place that we might want to live. So it's a great it's a way to celebrate our historic districts and advertise our community quality of life. So our other projects, we have a few more signs that we would like, interpretive signs and some ideas about where they might go. Right now we're working on one for the Carnegie, our public library. And that one will probably go in later this year. We have to vet it a few more times. Excuse me. And, I'm kind of pushing for the idea of maybe one in Friendship Square to explain the whole downtown revitalization. This is a new idea, and we got to see how much support it gains. But, and then one about Fort Russell may be located in East City Park or somewhere along the corridor. So we are looking out there. We also have been invited to submit ideas, and we have to the state highway. Though you probably noticed those brown signs that are all over the state, the wooden signs with yellow. You can't deviate from their format or their fonts or anything. It's all 1970s kind of look. But we have worked on a draft and submitted to the Department of Transportation, and we're really just waiting to hear back whether they like what we said. But we're invited to write a sign about Moscow. So it would be south of town. Of course, the highway isn't there. I don't think the alignment's totally clarified, so it's not like it's a big rush. But anyway, they did ask us to meet a September deadline, which we did. So anyway, and then we're also looking at different ideas for street signage in Fort Russell, similar to the program downtown. And we are also looking at possible future historic districts. Right now, the university's kind of in a bit of financial discussions, so it's a little harder maybe to approach. We have talked to people at the university and toured with them and the state about making a historic district in the center of campus. And I think there's some interest. It's just right now it's probably not the best timing, so we'll probably put that on the side burner for a while. But anyway, I think that's about all I can think of. I just again want to thank Mike because he's an incredible bastion of support, and also council liaisons, including Jim this year, are just very helpful to kind of keep us tied into being on the right course. Do you have any questions?
Wendy, you guys do just a wonderful job. The Orchid Awards was just an absolute fun evening. It always is every single time we have those, because citizens as well as businesses really take the time and effort to restore things, and it's just beautiful. So it's one of the fun events that I get to do every couple of years.
And we really appreciate your support and you being there. It was really, it really makes it a much more festive
Oh, yeah.
kind of occasion, so,
Very good time, and
Thank
thanks.
you.
I mean, you wear two hats on this commission as well as P and Z.
yeah. So, maybe we can find somebody eventually in historic preservation who wants to take my hat, so. Anyway, well, thank you very much.
Questions for?
I just want to reiterate the call for people that might want to serve on that commission. It's a good place to start, and they are kind of short of members, whereas the other commissions are largely full. So that's a good place to start if you're interested in serving on a commission.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll be advertising that widely.
And we have some fun. Once in a while, we go to, have something at Casa Lopez afterwards, so, anyway.
It's always a good thing. There's nothing wrong with
They
that.
have treats and alcohol.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Wendy.
You're going to be unemployed soon.
Okay, item number 6, Government Finance Officers Association Award Presentation. Gary Reedner is coming to the podium, so I will turn
Thank
it
you, Your
over to
Honor.
Gary.
Well, I'm here to congratulate our finance department. We have our finance director, Sarah Banks, and assistant finance director, Renee Tack, here tonight to accept the 16th consecutive Excellence in Financial Reporting as awarded by the Government Finance Officers Association. I'd like to read a short description from the GFOA. The Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting has been awarded to the City of Moscow by the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada for its Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or CAFR. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. An award of financial reporting achievement has been awarded to the City of Moscow and the City of Moscow Finance Department as primarily responsible for preparing the award-winning CAFR. The CAFR has been judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, which includes demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate potential users and user groups to read the CAFR. In another area, they say that the Certificate of Achievement, a government must publish an easily readable and efficiently organized comprehensive annual financial report. This report must satisfy both generally accepted accounting principles and applicable legal requirements. Suffice it to say that when I came here a million years ago, the city issued an audit every year, and that acted as our comprehensive annual financial report. Then about 17 years ago, when Don Palmer, our former finance director, came to Moscow, he'd been involved in submitting a CAFR from a previous employer to the GFOA and had received that award, so we decided that we would try to get it ourselves. And we did that. That's 16 years in a row that we've achieved this. The CAFR not only shows the transparency of the reporting of our financial positions, but it also provides a comprehensive report that benefits the city when we achieve or go out for financials, such as when we go out for a bond and we're negotiating price, those sorts of things. The rating companies look at our comprehensive annual financial report and will often give us more consideration, a better bond rating, which translates to lower interest rates for our financing. So it's a very good document. We're one of very few governments in the state of Idaho that get the CAFR, and it's really a testament to the finance department and the work that they do downstairs. So with that, I'd ask Renee and Sarah to come forward. And Mayor, if you'd come down and present the award to them.
All right. Good evening, council and mayor. Yeah, this award feels really good to get yet another year in a row. I know, as many of you know, Renee just came on staff at the time that we were working on this last year. Helped out a lot with the preparation along with the finance office, who is also relatively new. City staff put in a lot of work, and we're actually right in the middle of it again right now. So hopefully I'll be up here in another year receiving the same award, and it's just been great, so thank you very much.
Sarah, one of the things, Sarah and of course Renee, she's our assistant director there, finance director. These women just get the job done. They don't take a lot of glory, they just make stuff happen. And that's something that's very significant for this community and for our town. With that, hats off to the finance department, because 16 years in a row is a big deal for us, so keep that going. I mean, that is pretty neat. And the citizens of the city of Moscow should be very relieved and relied within that, because there's a lot of cities and municipalities that cannot boast that same thing.
Yep.
So hats off to your team.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I see that this is an action item, so I would move that we receive the Excellence in Financial Reporting Award from the Government Finance Officers Association for the city fiscal year 2018 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report.
Second.
Okay. Jim made a motion and Catherine seconded to receive the Excellence in Financial Reporting Award from the Government Finance Officers Association for the city's FY 2018 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. I'll start to roll with Ann.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you again. Okay, with that, we'll move on to item number 7, Professional Services Agreement for the design of 6th Street and the 3rd Street Phase 1 and 2 Federal Aid. We've got Bill Belknap with us this evening. Hi, Bill.
Thank you, Your Honor. As this was introduced, this is a professional services design agreement for 3 specific pedestrian safety projects that the city was successful in receiving grant funding to construct. The first is a pedestrian safety project on 6th Street located between Washington and Almond Street on the 6th Street corridor. That grant was received in 2006. The project was then designed and then bid in 2019. Unfortunately, we only received 2 bids, and they were 75% over the estimated cost of the project, so those bids were rejected. That project is proposed to be repackaged in with our other 2 projects on the 3rd Street corridor and then be rebid coming up in 2021. The 2 remaining projects include pedestrian safety improvements on the 3rd Street corridor from Jackson all the way almost to Llewellyn Street to the west. That project, due to its size, was broken up into 2 specific phases. The Phase 1 grant was received in 2017, and the Phase 2 grant was received in 2018. We chose to delay Phase 1 and go ahead and design and construct this project in concert to try to get the best, both minimize disturbance to property owners in the corridor, as well as try to get the best bid results for the project. So the scope of this project, or the design services agreement, is to do the design for the 3rd Street improvements and some slight repackaging of the 6th Street previous design to be able to allow the bidding of all 3 components at the same time. LTAC did an advertisement for design professionals on this project. They selected Precision Engineering as the firm to provide those services and negotiated contract in the amount of $88,082, which is approximately equal to 15% of the estimated construction cost and is an appropriate fee for the services that are to be rendered. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council might have.
Questions for Bill?
We've been over this
Yeah, we-
lots of times.
Yeah, it came to Public Works. I think the one question I had was, a comment that I appreciated you including the comment about the 15% of being a reasonable amount of a total project cost for anyone who did not know that, which I didn't. I appreciated you pointing that out, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Jim, did you have a comment you want?
No, I just want to say that I think it's been well presented, and I think everybody's pretty well versed in why we changed this and what's happened, and thank you for your presentation.
So I'd move approval of the professional service agreement with Precision Engineering.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Art and a second by Gina to approve the professional service agreement with Precision Engineering. I'll start the roll with Catherine.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to item number 8, consideration of the Moscow Arts Commission recommendation for public arts project at C and Main Street. We have Megan, and this is going to be kind of exciting because this is something we've talked about for
And I
a
have a
lot, for a while.
presentation, I'm not sure how to pull that up. Let's see.
Come on out,
Zach's here to
Zach.
save me.
Zach is the guy.
Thank you, sir. Oh, it's here somewhere. Oh, there I am. Gotcha, thank you. Such a
This is kind of neat. I'll be glad when we get this done.
Yeah. All right. Good evening, Mayor Lambert, members of City Council, and city staff. Thank you for the opportunity to present on this project tonight. It's really exciting to be at this point with this project. We started really working on this in earnest in January of this year. And before I get into project details and timeline, I'd like to recognize the vast number of people who've worked on this public art project, including members of the Moscow Arts Commission. Some of them are in the audience tonight. They take a lot of time out of their lives to work on these projects, and it's really a gift. We also had an incredible selection panel that, again, invested a lot of time into careful consideration of this project. And so this is something that was made very much by the community. So this is a sort of retrospective timeline of the project. The Moscow Arts Commission started project description development and RFQ development in January of 2019, and then opened the call to artists in May. The selection process carried from August through to November. And as you can see from this timeline, we not only worked with the mayor's appointed selection panel with the Moscow Arts Commission, but also had the opportunity for public comment. And so tonight is that date you see there, December 16th. We're bringing the Moscow Arts Commission's recommendation to council with an intention of bringing the artwork or installing the artwork in May of 2020. The graphic that you see on the left there is just a reminder of our artwork area for this project. The location at C and Main is unique in that it's in the middle of a sort of funny shaped intersection there where Main Street and Jackson meet. And so because of its location, the ITD is involved in this project. We've kept them involved throughout the process. They have seen all of the RFQ documents. They have seen design documents for the artist or the artwork recommendation tonight. And they've seen and have not found any problems with the design. One thing to note about this project as it relates to the ITD is that they have very specific site obstruction requirements. So that means that we can have artwork in this location, but it must start 10 feet above the level of the roadway. So what you'll notice in the way that the artists have designed this piece is that it's up on poles. So all of the finalists had to work within those parameters so that they could be in compliance with the ITD requirements. One thing that's important to note about this project is that we worked really hard to make sure that the community was aware of the project's progress, that artists in the community were attuned to the opportunity, that the public had plenty of opportunity to weigh in. And during that public comment period, there were 50 people who commented in one form or another, either online or on paper on the first floor of City Hall. So we worked really hard to make sure that everybody was aware of this project going along. The project description was the result of the development efforts of the Moscow Arts Commission. And it was noted early on in the process that this is a location there at the north end of Moscow's downtown that is for many that feeling when we're arriving from the north end, that it's where we feel like we're entering a hometown. And so this project description was something that the artists read as they were creating their proposals, and the selection panel and the Arts Commission asked those artists to respond to this project description so that the artwork is site-specific and responsive to Moscow. So in total, the C and Main Public Art finalists were asked to provide site-specific designs based on that project description, a detailed budget and production schedule, a community engagement plan, and a description of the maintenance needs for the artwork. It is worth noting that the budget was set by council, but we asked them to provide a document that detailed how that budget would be used in their project. One other note before I move on, the community engagement plan was really important to the Arts Commission and to the selection panel, partially because of the experience with the last public art installation at the library. When Melissa Cole made that piece for the library, she really involved the community, and that seemed to be something that everybody was interested in repeating in some form or fashion, however that fits for the artist. So this is the recommended project from the Moscow Arts Commission and the selection panel. These artists, Jennifer Corio and Dave Fry, are artists who are living in Vancouver, Washington now, and they responded to the project description's reference to homecoming and talked about that as it says here in the slide, there's this migratory quality to Moscow. We've all seen that in the ebb and flow of the population throughout the year, that in the summer the students fly away and then in the fall they come home to roost. And so they wanted to really embody that sense of flying in and flying out and landing in the abstracted Palouse landscape. So this piece is called The Homecoming. And I think I can make this work. And here's a view of the project in the round. So what we're looking at here in terms of materials, the poles are weathering steel, so they are designed to rust. And the wires that you see connecting the poles are from stainless steel, the birds and landscape elements, including the curving hills and the barn, are all made in powder-coated aluminum. Important to note that council, of course, has the right to offer other direction, and the ITD may offer other technical requirements. But this is the concept as proposed by the artists. And with that, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer questions.
Megan, when will this happen? Of course, the council's got to approve it, but say the council approves this evening.
Yes.
When does this take place?
This would be installed by end of May of 2020.
Okay. Question, Brandy?
Can you talk a little bit about the public input? You said there was quite a lot. I mean, was it, I know there were 3 projects. What was the public input like? I mean,
Well, hard to say in numerical terms, because we asked for public comments, not necessarily public voting, but we did organize that according to the sort of the comments that were in favor of, comments that were, sort of more general points about the purpose of public art. But generally speaking, there were favorable comments about all of them.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's not like,
I'm sorry, I guess
No,
maybe
no.
I don't totally understand.
I was just wondering how much was there, was this the overwhelming public favorite? Or you commented on a lot of different factors that came into play, including the community engagement and the plan and everything. I'm just curious how much of a part of the decision came from that input, or if there was support for all three. Maybe they were just.
I think there was definitely support for all three. All three finalists are seasoned professional specialists in creating public art, and that came through in their proposals. I think one of the things that came through pretty strongly about this particular piece was that the representational or the recognizable subject matter was interesting to many members of the public, that they were attracted to a landscape that they recognized, they were attracted to the bird shapes that they recognized. The others were certainly more abstract, and for whatever reason, those who chose to respond to the public comment, many responded favorably to the more representational end.
Catherine?
You talked about this at our committee meeting, but I just wanted to point it out that in our packet, and then it's in on 113 of 123, about the maintenance, which I really appreciated that you all considered that, and talking about how to take care of the art over the years, and how to deal with vandalism and the different things that could occur to public art. And I thought that was forward-thinking in terms, because with the infrastructure of all the plinths and all the different things that we have to take care of are really a consideration, so I thought that was good.
Thank you. Yeah, we don't expect it to last forever without upkeep.
Yeah.
You know, we expect to take care of the investment.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm the council representative, the liaison for the Arts Commission this past year, and a lot of work went on this, and I also found myself tossed under the bus and onto the selection committee as well. But relative to that.
That's a good choice.
12 different artists put in a response to the request for qualifications, and the committee relatively quickly coalesced around 3 finalists. And I would have been happy, frankly, with any of the 3 of them, but after lengthy discussions among the selection committee people and further with the Arts Commission itself, the feeling coalesced around this feeling of homecoming, with the resident birds who stay here representing the citizens, and then the migratory in and out types being the students. And I think that it fits the site well, and the rest of the commission did too, and so that's kind of why we centered on that. Relative to the public input, there were good things to be said for all of it. There were also some interesting comments about public art in general that I won't go into here, but it made for interesting reading. But I think the Arts Commission did a really good job in centering on this piece and recommending this one to be the finalist for consideration by the council.
Thank you.
Other comments?
I move to approve the Moscow Arts Commission's recommendation of the artwork entitled The Homecoming by Jennifer Corio and Dave Free in the couplet of C and Main Street.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion by Catherine and a second by Art to approve the Moscow Arts Commission recommendation of the artwork listed, The Homecoming by Jennifer Corio and David Fry in couplet
Fry, sorry.
at C and Main Street. So with that, I'll take the roll, starting with Ann.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
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 Okay, very good. That is the one we're going to get then. Thank you, Megan. Okay, we will move on to item number 9, Heron's Hideout Property Purchase Agreement. Gary is with us this evening to explain what we have here.
Thank you, Your Honor. What we have here before you tonight comes as a bit of a surprise. It is a proposal to purchase a piece of property that we had not considered in the preparation of the 2020 budget. The reason is that people decide they want to sell property, not generally in conformance with the city's fiscal year. Certain pieces of property have specific utility to the city, and we're always on the lookout for those pieces of property. And typically, it's not a great idea when we approach people for the purchase of property. Typically, we don't get the best, as you can see from our purchase of properties within the last several years. People tend to think they have a higher value than perhaps they would on the open market. There are times when we are brought into a purchase situation, or at least told about a purchase or a potential for purchase, and this is one of those times. In this case, we have a piece of property that's adjacent to Heron's Hideout. And the property, you'll probably will have a map here in a little while, but it is on South Mountain View, south of Joseph Street. It is a piece of property that is in the floodplain and has been flooded on the occasion that we end up having floodwaters. It's about a 1.9 acre piece of property. It is directly adjacent to Paradise Path, and across the path to the south from this property is Heron's Hideout. It's a 1.9 acre piece of property. Talk to Dwight, Parks and Rec, obviously, if there are properties that are adjacent to pathways, which can create a buffer for the public from development and to expand parkland. Obviously, the Parks Director is very interested in doing that. This is one of those times where a piece of property came up that was directly adjacent to our parks. Also, this land, as I mentioned, is in the adjacent to Paradise Creek as well, and we have been looking at ways to mitigate floodwaters in the area. Adjacent to Paradise Path, as we're looking, you recall that we were involved in some FEMA discussions earlier last year about trying to do a project in order to retain floodwater and reduce risk to downstream residents. This is one of those areas that we could retain floodwater as well, and as we proceed with that project over the next several years, this is an area where floodwater could be stored as well. In addition, open space is at a premium. As former council member Linda Paul used to say, when an opportunity to purchase land for public purposes you can take advantage of it, you should do it because God isn't making any more land. I would say in this case, there's not a lot of land out there that isn't subject to development. So, staff, Bill Belknap particularly, has negotiated the opportunity to purchase 1.26 acres, or about 54,000 square feet, of the original 1.9 acre parcel for the amount of $87,500. The residence itself will be marketed and will be sold as a single-family residence, and we'll get to some maps here in a moment. As part of the deal, we would fund the property survey and we would proceed with the lot line adjustment application because we are separating a lot from the original parcel. We would also put an earnest money agreement down in the amount of $5,000. You have a draft of that agreement in your packet. We have 90 days to do our due diligence. Due diligence in the property world just means that you look at the form of the title, you look at whether there are environmental issues on the property, you check for actual ownership of the property and any problems with it. If you are satisfied, your due diligence period is finalized and you execute the property. If we choose not to proceed because of some issues with due diligence, then we would have our $5,000 deposit returned and the earnest money agreement would go away. So we would like to fund this through land and park development line item, as you see in your packet, has a current balance of $133,600. There are not funds that are allocated in any way. In other words, there's not a specific project for which these funds are accumulated. These funds are generally, we place money in there just in case we are able to do something like you see before you tonight. The property itself, this is the 10,000-foot view. As you can see down along Paradise Path, got the Moscow School District Community Playfields here. Paradise Path goes down through here, and you have Heron's Hideout is this area right here. And as I indicated, Paradise Path, as you can see, the path in the east-west configuration here is right along the boundary of this property. This is the subject property itself. This is the resident just off Mountain View Road. Zooming in a little more. Okay, so if we look at existing city ownership, the area in the green is city ownership. So again, Heron's Hideout and areas along Paradise Path, and you can more clearly see the residents in the piece of property. This is just the photograph view, as you can see. Again, Paradise Path, this is the viewing platform into Heron's Hideout. This is the subject piece of property right here. 54,896 square feet, more or less, about 1.26, I believe, acres. So if the council decides to move forward with the project, this would be the combined city ownership of the property. As you can see, with the creek going down through here and it being in the floodplain, provides opportunities both for open space, recreational opportunities, and flood storage. So with that, staff recommends approval. As I indicated, this was not a budgeted item. We would go through the open budget process, but we have accumulated funds to purchase the property, and we'd like to proceed with it. This was proposed to council in executive session, which is why it was not on a committee prior to tonight. The purpose of the executive session, of course, when you're in negotiation for the purchase of property, that is one of the exceptions to talking about that in open meeting. However, the purchase itself must be done in an open meeting, which is why we're here tonight. So again, staff's recommendation is that we move ahead with the purchase.
Questions for Gary?
No questions, but just a comment. This is a unique opportunity to really assist in pushing potential development back away from the Paradise Path going through Heron's Hideout, and also offers a really excellent opportunity to help with downstream flood mitigation by slowing and allowing floodwaters to kind of return to natural by providing some more meanders to the creek or some dugouts, which might also even help with Wanapum aquifer recharge by storing the floodwaters there. And I think it's just a really great opportunity that we should take advantage of.
Thank you, Art.
I have a question.
Brandy?
I'm curious with, during the 90-day inspection period, what would we be looking for in something like this that would be?
Well, they look at title to guarantee that the owner who is selling the property actually has good marketable and warrantable title. If there is an issue with that, then we'd come back to the city attorney, say, okay, there's a cloud on this title, there's an issue with it, what's your advice? Sometimes the cloud on the title would be insignificant, and the advice would be, go ahead, the risk is really low. On the other hand, it might be of significance, and the owner may not have full warrantable title, which in such a case, we'd want to back away. In addition, there is a warranty that the property has not been abused, it has no environmental hazards on it. As you can see around town, there are a few lots that have brownfield issues. Having been on the URA, you know there's one at the corner of 6th and Jackson, which takes a little bit of mitigation to get those environmental issues taken care of. In this case, because the property may have recreational utility, an environmental issue may not be something that we would want to do. So that would be a due diligence matter. So just issues like that come up gives the city a chance. We want to be able to say, we want the piece of property we negotiated for. We negotiated for it with clear title. It's a clean piece of property, and it appears as they wanted it to be.
Catherine?
Is it okay to hear
Outstanding
from Dwight on what he thinks about this? I know we've talked about the mitigation for the floodplain and the fact that it's next to the path, but because it'll fall under his purview in terms of I was just kind of curious.
Certainly,
what
be
came to
happy to
his
have Dwight.
mind of management or issues.
Well, thank you. The last comments on the slide presentation were from the staff, which, that's us. And that's my recommendation. It's a good purchase. And we might not see a whole lot today, but down the road, this will certainly pay for itself in a lot of different ways, I think, especially with the way the environment's going right now.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Dwight.
All right, thanks.
Gina?
If there's no more questions, I'd like to move that we approve the proposed property purchase agreement.
Seconded.
I do have one more question, but it's
Okay,
fine
Brandon.
to happen after the motion. Historically, has it been known to flood into that parcel that the house is on? That far?
So may-
Do you- I don't know.
Bill? Let's have Bill on.
Just a small portion. So I know the portions of the path do get inundated to go underneath water. I think a small portion of it goes across the path, but it doesn't go too far into it. When we're talking about flood storage, we're talking about constructing flood storage. So it would be an excavation of a low-lying pond area, correct?
And so that's kind of another issue there. Like, if there was to be excavation, that could be a reason to, if we're thinking of that for potential flood storage. And if,
Sure.
I mean, it doesn't seem likely that it's an area with any environmental surprises, but if we're thinking of digging there, that would be a good reason to just be sure.
Certainly.
But I was wondering about the piece that would be retained with the home on it. Could there be any, I don't know, potential liability for the city if there's flooding onto that area because we own the adjacent land?
No.
Okay.
No, and I mean, not unless the city intentionally impounded, constructed, took some action to cause flooding to go onto that property. But if we were to excavate to create flood storage on our property, the topography would still, the elevations would still be the same with the existing home, the adjacent property. There is a fair amount of property already surrounding it. Whatever we did to create flood storage on our property by creating depressions or creating flood storage areas would not increase. It should just diminish the potential risk of flooding on that adjacent property. And the other reason, if I will comment for the 90 days for the due diligence period, is actually to get the survey completed and to visually verify property boundaries to make sure we understand. This is just the assessor's plat map that we're basing that property boundary off of, so we wanted time to have the survey done for the property corners to be set to verify that property meets our expectations for what it is that we're purchasing.
I would note that in the floods of 96 and 97, the residence was flooded. You couldn't access it off Mountain View Road. That was before the swale was put in along the Moscow School District Community Playfields. The city constructed that in the late 90s, early 2000s. So it has not flooded significantly since that time, even though we've had one or two flood events. But in 96 and 97, before those improvements were made, it did flood significantly. I would note as well that that is just another example of the improvements, impoundments, and stormwater mitigation that has been happening along the creek and will continue to happen in order to protect the residents from flooding. And this is just another way to do that.
Okay. Further discussion before we take a vote from anybody? Okay, with that, I will start we've got the motion by Gina and the second by Art to approve the proposed property purchase agreement. I'll start with Catherine.
Aye.
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 Okay, so we are going to buy that piece of property.
I would note as well that we will be bringing, since the money has been accumulated but not appropriated for this purchase, we will be bringing that in the annual open budget process in August. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, that is the end of our regular meeting, so we will go right into reports. I'll start with you, Jim.
Because of Historic Preservation making their report to council tonight, they stole my thunder on that one. The only other thing I have to report is that the 1912 second floor bid opening took place last week, and the low bid was about $250,000 over what was expected. So we're not sure whether that will get awarded right away. Jenny is working diligently to try and find the money to to cover that, or to maybe work with the contractor and get some of that down. But that doesn't include any of the bid alternates, which are about, I think there's 5 of them on there, and I think they're all in the neighborhood of $30,000 each. So those are kind of out of the question at this point, but anyway, there's more to come on that. But just so you're aware that it didn't come in what was expected, it came in quite a bit over. So we'll have to work on that some more.
Yep, we're all experiencing those things, aren't we? Art?
Yeah, let's see, last week, the Urban Renewal Agency met and considered a few items. The development of the property at 6th and Jackson by Rusty Olps got pushed back another 6 months to give him time to do some more building design and come up with some better approaches, more economic approaches, so he doesn't go way
60
over.
days. 60 days.
60 days. Well,
Not
6 months?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's not, yeah, it is. So 2 solid months. So, yeah, up to, let's see, May 17th. So, anyway, also got the strategic plan updated for final review, and that went past for the URA. And a lengthy set of projects were discussed for construction next year and into the year subsequent to that. That was all in the paper, so if anybody wants to read about the arm's length of projects that are going on, it's there. Palouse Knowledge Corridor has reformulated itself from a 501c6 into a 501c3, so they can receive more grant monies to facilitate what they're trying to do, but they're kind of back to the future on it and going back to focusing on the transition of university-originated ideas into actual commercial businesses. They're looking primarily to focus on value-added ag at the moment, using things like food science, human nutrition students, projects in competition, to then take those ideas from the competition and then segue them off into small businesses to follow up on those. So that's moving along pretty nicely. Also, as a part of that, there's some awards that they're going to be able to get their hands on for like Albertsons, because the big hindrance to any project in a value-added ag situation is how do you sell it? And grocery stores operate in the fact that they sell shelf space. So how do you have access to shelf space, which costs a fortune? And so the Albertsons people, as a result of these student competitions and businesses, are providing free shelf space in their stores as part of the award for the students. So it's a natural transition that they're working on through that. And we know about the Arts Commission, which also met, and we heard all about that tonight from Megan, and that's all I have.
Okay. Ann?
I took time off for vacation, and so I have nothing to report. Human Rights Commission will meet tomorrow and be back on Thursday.
Good for you.
How was vacation?
Very relaxing.
Great. Brandy?
Let's see, Farmers Market met and they're working, they have a branding subcommittee and there was an update on that. They'll be contacting various local graphic designers to come up with a branding for consistency for the farmers market, starting discussions about various merchandise and marketing and things like that, so that the farmers market will have its own look. The policy subcommittee gave an update. One of the things I thought was a little interesting was about permitting limited vendor merchandise with their logo. So some of those vendors that might have T-shirts or hats or something. So they're going to start to allow that in a limited amount. And a strategic planning update that Jen Piffner provided, similar to the city's strategic plan update with a great software that she provided to all of us. So that was neat for the Farmers Market Commission to see that. And I did want to comment on a couple people who have served on that commission for quite a long time who will not be renewing. Linda Heath has been a craft vendor serving on the commission for 7 years, and she's not renewing, but she has been very involved with the commission. And Joanne Munetta as well has been on the commission for 7 years, and 6 years prior to that on the market subcommittee of the Arts Commission. So She also will not be renewing, but they've both given a lot of time and service to the Farmers Market Commission. Parks and Recreation, I filled in for Gina, and that was my first time at the Parks and Rec Commission, which was lively, great group. And one of the things, there was a presentation from a representative of the Rotary proposing an installation in Rotary Park to celebrate 100 years of Rotary service here in Moscow with a flag installation, a flagpole that will be lit with possibly a plaque, and that the Rotary would be responsible for some plantings around it, with the city maintaining that, and so more to come with that. But the commission approved them going forward with the next stage of design, and that would be brought to the Parks and Rec Commission at the next meeting. They went over the next year's community commission goals, still trying to find a second location for a community garden, continued interest in that, and some interest in taking on a big goal that I think Dwight has mentioned to us before about assessing and developing the Parks and Rec standards specific to match Moscow's needs. I know we've heard from him before in budget times about, national things might say we need X number of tennis courts, but maybe that's not what Moscow needs based on our population. So that's a big project that they are interested in taking on that will help them to guide future projects in Moscow. Then the last one was planning and zoning. Let's see, some of this, I'm going to skip over here a little bit. There's a legislative hearing providing for the amendments to the mobile home parks that you've heard me report on before, in RV parks. Some updated definitions. That was, final approval was completed by planning and zoning. That will not be coming to council. And some subdivision review. There's a committee that was looking at some subdivision possible changes and provided some recommendations. Michael Ray went over that. There was some discussion, and some of those things the commission seemed to be leaning towards not agreeing with all of the recommendations that came from that subcommittee necessarily. So that there will be further discussion about that as well.
Okay, very good. Gina?
Thank you, first of all, Brandy, for attending Parks and Rec for me. I'm sorry I missed the flag discussion. That would have been so cool. I was, however, out in Deary in my day job having a mayor's roundtable with all of our Latah County mayors in attendance. It was pretty exciting and just fun to see how everybody does their approach to city, kind of looking at it from our side and then there. So anyway, it was a great excuse. Thank you for doing that. I have attended in the last week a Moscow Volunteer Fire Department meeting, and they brought in 3 new members. And this is the time of year when they start looking at all of everybody meeting their training requirements for the year. We are very, very fortunate in Moscow that we have a very strong volunteer fire department who also holds their members to the training requirements that our fire department does. It was impressive, and those who were kind of behind the 8 ball and maybe hadn't put all of their hours in yet were being hounded by 3 or 4 or 5 different people in the department. So it was kind of impressive. It's a real team there, and we're really lucky. So, and they are still working on strategic planning, and they're going to use some, remember I told you they were elected to, or selected to be part of a recruiting photo shoot. Do you remember me telling you about maybe 2 months ago? Those pictures are actually accessible now to the fire department. They're going to use it in some of their PR pieces. So we'll see some pictures of our fire department. I also attended the tree commission, and aside from, they're doing similar to the Parks and Rec, they're talking about their goals and 5-year goals. They also chose all of the seedlings for the Arbor Day seedling. You go and you get your little tree in the plastic bag. We've decided all the way through 2023, and I'm just telling you, you want to watch out for Arbor Day the next couple of years. you want to go and you want to pick up your seedlings. Awesome, awesome choices. Yeah, it was kind of a fun moment. But that's a pretty active group. Our chair, Clark Phillip, stepped down. We're all kind of sad about that, but I'm sure that another citizen will step forward and do quite as good as Clark did. I attended the URA, and Art grabbed all the good pieces. And I didn't hear 6 months, scared me when you said that. 60 days sounded
Thank
better
you.
once I started
Good
talking
call.
and not listening
I
to
felt it
you.
was worth jumping in
It
on that
was.
one
Yeah,
before Garrett got a hold of that or something.
It's a little scary. I was fortunate to attend the Logos Christmas Festival extravaganza. I don't know the exact noun for that, on Friday evening. It was so much fun. Little bitty people from second grade, preschool, all the way up to high school and concert choirs. It was the coolest thing. And about every 20 minutes, they made us stand up and sing Christmas carols. And you would not believe how many verses there are in some of these Christmas carols. But I walked out having that Christmas spirit going on. So it was really cool. I was also, as was our fabulous mayor, one of the lucky judges for the Christmas decoration contest that was going on. And I have to say, we as a community get pretty fired up about Christmas. It was really, really neat to see, and it was funny in the houses that were actually listed as contestants. It seemed they definitely had an impact on their neighbors. Sometimes it even impacted across the street. So it was kind of exciting, and now I'm seriously in the Christmas spirit. That's all I have, sir.
Okay, with that, we'll go to
The other
Catherine.
exciting event that was for the holiday spirit was presented by the University of Idaho, that has all the high school from all around the region and all the amazing members of the university musical group, with Dan Buckfidge leading. So that was a great presentation. And then I had fair and affordable housing, and the commission went over the Palouse housing assessment and finalized their plans for what is that training called? The one in February, that the realtors and,
The Community Wellness Fair?
yeah, but what the fair and affordable housing is going to do at that fair. What are they doing? What, they're going to give information about I wasn't clear if that was decided.
Yep, so they're going to go ahead and they're going to pay for a table at the Wellness Fair, and then they're going to sponsor participation with the Moscow Affordable Housing Trust, the Intermountain Fair Housing Council, and Habitat for Humanity to share information on housing practices, fair housing standards, and affordable housing opportunities.
Right, thank you. And Bill gave his presentation again, what was it, the fourth time maybe, of the Palouse housing assessment to the whole commission once again. And, he can get a lot of words in, and he did the whole thing again. So kudos to Bill for doing that, and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Well, I had a couple things. First thing, I want to thank President Jim Bolin here. He filled in for me on this last council meeting on December 2nd, because I took a week off and goofed off, ladies and gentlemen, through Thanksgiving week, went to Nevada. And I got interesting, looked at a bunch of different rock formations there. Had a really good time. But anyway, thank you, Jim.
Win?
Well, yes. Well, I didn't have much to lose, Jim. So there you have it. So how's that? But since I got back, I've been a busy beaver. And December 4th, we had our monthly meeting with the city, the county, a Moscow School District, and U of I, Wellness Complex. And that's always an interesting time to get a chance to talk. It was kind of nice in some respects, because there was only 7 or 8 of us, but boy, the discussion was pretty deep and intense, so I kind of gave a chance for people to really open up about a variety of different things. December 5th, as Gene had said, Mayor's Roundtable in Deary, and that was always kind of fun. And there's a couple of things that I really like hearing, and every mayor from every town that we've had in Latah County was there, and I think that's good to have those once in a while. It's kind of fun to see what smaller communities are doing, and everybody, it doesn't matter what size of town you are, you run into issues, a lot of it having enough money to do whatever, but boy, some of these small towns have got some really cool projects going on that they've been able to pull together through grants and different things, and so it's pretty neat to see what's going on. And the lady that's the mayor of Bowville,
Yes.
I had a good chance to talk to her, and and they're gonna win up there, and I really got kind of a kick out of her spirit, because boy, there's a lady that's moving things forward, and I like that, because, and the thing that I really liked about it, she says, we got some issues that we, and only we can solve it, and I thought that was a pretty neat way of saying it, because that's exactly right, in any community, within the community is when you gotta solve a problem and the issues.
Agree.
Okay, with December 6th, we had our winter parade, and Judge, that was a kick in the pants. We had a lot of folks, and the weather was nice that night. It wasn't so bitter cold. It wasn't raining and blowing 40 miles an hour and snowing and sleeting and everything else. So it was a nice evening, and a lot of people came out for it. Very well prepared. December 7th, we had the Moscow Volunteer Fire Department Annual Banquet and Awards at the Best Western, and that was a good time as well. And it's always fun for me as the mayor to get a chance to see, especially the young men and women come up through the ranks. And I talked about the heritage of our volunteer fire department and what makes it work. And I love talking about that all the time, because we here in Moscow is something that was very, very unique in the state of Idaho, and we can be very proud of that as a community, what these men and women do. That's just fabulous. Let's see, December 9th, I had a MAAC meeting, and the kids decided to put a float in on the parade, so they worked diligently to get it together. And they also put together a popcorn. They gave out 400 bags of popcorn at the high school basketball game, and the high school played Lake City on the 9th, and it was a wonderful game, which is a Coeur d'Alene school. And one of the kids was tied with 2 seconds to go, and a kid hit a 35-footer from Moscow to win it right at the buzzer. So it was one of those thrilling games. So it was just kind of wild to play. The place went nuts. So it was great. As Gene had said, there was a decorating contest for houses and businesses, and it was amazing what some of the businesses downtown did. And so it's pretty neat to see that spirit and that going through our entire community. For the holidays. That's a big deal, and we've got a lot of good things going on. So, let's see. With that, I think I'm going to end my conversation and put it over to Gary. We got anything, Gary, you want to add?
All I wanted to do was reiterate that the holiday potluck is this Thursday, the 19th at 3 o'clock. Hope to see all the council members and the mayor there. It's a great time. So City Hall will be closed at 3 o'clock that day.
And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is our last council meeting for 2019, and it's been my privilege as the mayor to serve with these 6 councilors up here for 2019. We've had some good times, some interesting times, got a lot of wonderful conversations about a variety of things. And no, we don't always agree on everything, but the catch is, as we move forward, we get some stuff done. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Let's go. All in favor?
Aye.
We will adjourn at 8:17, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.